This is Danny Haifong, and these are the latest developments that have occurred over the last 24 hours. A Singaporean flag vessel in the Strait of Hormuz was struck by an Iranian drone in the last 24 hours on June 25th. Wall Street Journal reports that this puts the U.S. Iran MOU on very shaky grounds. And Donald Trump himself had an incredibly tepid answer for this, saying that this is obviously a violation of the ceasefire. As you can see here, Donald Trump also mentioned that there were more than one drone that attacked ships in the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours. Al Jazeera confirms that Iran, after warning these vessels, three of them, that they needed to turn around, did indeed fire one-way drones at their way. Also occurring now, the Wall Street Journal reports that the United States is about to change its force posture in the Middle East. This comes as Bahrain's Fifth Fleet, the U.S. Naval Fifth Fleet, has about $400 million worth of damage. Saudi bases, Kuwaiti bases, all may be closed, and some institutions, military installations, will go underground. To discuss all of this and more, I have with me Patrick Henningsen of 21st Century Wire. Patrick, thanks so much for joining me again. It's always great to have you here.
Great to be with you, Danny.
Yeah, everyone hit the like button. That helps boost the show. So how about we get into that first story, Patrick? Your reaction to this story that Iranian drones were firing at ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Again, this comes after we covered yesterday that the IRGC has been warning vessels they need to take the prescribed route that Iran has drawn, and some of them are not doing so. What's going on here, and how significant is this? Is the MOU on as shaky ground as a lot of people, even the American people in polls, are assuming?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is hugely consequential. I mean, it could lead to, maybe some diplomatic spat, or I hate to use the word diplomacy, but some political spat between the two countries. But at the end of the day, what it does is it reinforces the reality that Iran has operational control over the Strait of Hormuz. So, like it or not, and these types of incidents could happen, and certainly there's a strict protocol there. We are still, the U.S. is still at war with Iran. There's been no peace treaty. So, in terms of heightened security, that's just a reality. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's that big of an incident myself, but it does again indicate that and remind everybody who's in charge of the strait. So could have been a bigger international incident had it been from another country, a Singaporean flagged vessel. Singapore's not, they're not insignificant, but they're not China and they're not India, and so we'll see how that develops. The other part that's more interesting, though, is what you mentioned, Danny, about the U.S. Standing Forces Agreement in the Persian Gulf. That really reflects, I think, the will of the Gulf states as much as anything. Certainly, the U.S. is exposed. The interesting thing is the underground bases. A talking point there. That means that you can kind of admit that warfare is changing, basically. So I would imagine the United States would be perhaps investing in missiles and drones to be deployed from such facilities. But again, that's going to be subject to, I think, approval. All this is going to be part of the negotiations with Iran and the Gulf states just going forward. So, the U.S. is announcing, I think for the U.S. domestic audience, you're in America, so you'd know better than me at this particular moment. But I think the U.S. domestic audience, I don't know if I don't know if they've quite, it's landed that they don't have the presence in the region, in the Middle East, that they once had. Like, they physically will never regain it. That's my belief. But I don't know if that idea has fully landed yet in America. So when we see announcements from the Pentagon or from this government, I would assume the domestic audience is an important part of that, how that plays with the domestic audience. I see so many problems with any U.S. military facility in the region. Yeah, but so what does that mean? That means that the United States will be putting a lot more into covert actions and covert operations. Syria being a perfect example of that. When Trump telegraphed that Jelani might do a
Yeah.
better job fighting Hezbollah, that wasn't just an insult or a slight to the Israelis. That's Trump telegraphing an operation. He's always had a problem keeping his mouth shut, even though he is always boasts about being the guy that nobody knows what he's about to do, Mr. Surprise, and keeping his enemies off balance and his allies off balance and his own government off balance, and the world. So, is Syria going to be a new dirty war? Is the U.S. going to reignite and mobilize the Israelis and the Americans mobilize their assets, Al Qaeda, ISIS assets in Syria to unleash a violent civil war on Lebanon? These are legitimate questions at this point.
Yeah, they are. And the interesting part about this, I think about all these developments, is that the Wall Street Journal is getting out ahead of Washington, even on the escalations in the Strait of Hormuz. It's the Wall Street Journal that are reporting them first. It took more than a day for Donald Trump just to react to what happened to that Singaporean vessel. But even this, what you were talking about, this report by the Wall Street Journal, this is what they published: a satellite image of the U.S. Naval Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. There has been no word from CENTCOM or the Pentagon about what they're actually going to do. It's all the Wall Street Journal publishing that indeed these these bases are so damaged that's going to cost so much money that they might even have to consider going underground with sub installations to protect whatever they're going to keep there, and then coming up with really what I would call strange ideas, maybe desperate ideas of maybe some single runways that they tried during that commando raid. So it's a little less predictable where their installations are going to be. But nonetheless, all of this points to a big pondering about whether the United States military will have a big presence in the Middle East at all.
Yeah, and it's not just the military aspect of it; it's the political side of it as well.